Picture this. America in the 1920s, drunk on jazz, gasoline, and easy credit. Skyscrapers claw at the sky, millionaires are minted overnight, and everyone, from the shoeshine boy to the banker, believes the party will never end. Welcome to Empire of Money, where we expose how empires of wealth are built and how quickly they burn. This is the untold, electrifying story of the Roaring Twenties and the crash that broke a nation. 10 episodes. Zero mercy. Let's begin. Party on the edge, the insane boom of the Roaring Twenties. Imagine waking up in 1922. The war is finally over. The air smells like gasoline and possibility. America isn't just recovering, it's exploding. Factories that once churned out shells and tanks now spit out shiny new cars, refrigerators, and radios faster than anyone can count. Skyscrapers stab the clouds in New York like they're trying to touch heaven itself. Jazz pours out of every speakeasy, every apartment window, every parked Ford. It's loud, it's wild, and it feels infinite. This is the Roaring Twenties, and everyone believes the roar will never stop. Henry Ford's assembly line turns a 12-hour car build into 90 minutes flat. Model Ts roll out by the millions. Suddenly, every middle-class family owns one. Roads clog with traffic. Suburbs sprout overnight. Oil fields in Texas and Oklahoma gush black gold. Steel mills run 3 shifts. Rubber plantations in Southeast Asia can't keep up. The entire economy is turbocharged, linked together in one roaring engine. Electricity floods cities. By 1929, 10 million homes have radios. 10 million families hearing the same ads, the same music, the same promise. Buy now, live better. Installment plans appear like magic. Never saved enough for that fridge? No problem. Pay $1 a week. Want a vacuum, a washing machine, a fur coat? Finance it. Banks hand out credit like candy at a parade. Why wait when tomorrow will obviously be richer than today? And then there's Wall Street, the beating, fevered heart of the madness. Stocks aren't investments anymore. They're lottery tickets printed on prestige paper. Margin trading lets you buy $100 of stock with just $10 down. The other 90, borrowed, from the broker, from the bank, from the future. Stocks only go up, right? The Dow Jones quadruples between 1924 and 1929. Barbers, bootblacks, and bellhops whisper hot tips to millionaires. Radio Corporation of America is gonna make us all rich. Buy utilities. They're printing money. Companies get creative. Holding companies own holding companies that own nothing but more holding companies. Paper pyramids built on hype and leverage. Profits, fundamentals. Who needs them when the chart line keeps climbing? Even President Coolidge smiles and says, prosperity is permanent. Economists nod along. Only a few lonely voices, like Roger Babson, dare to shout that a crash is coming. Wall Street laughs, buys more, and turns up the jazz louder. Rural America, forgotten. Farmers who fed the world during the war now drown in surplus grain and collapsing prices. They borrow to buy tractors, thinking bigger harvests will save them. Instead, they just dig the debt hole deeper. But nobody in the cities notices. They're too busy dancing the Charleston on penthouse rooftops, toasting with illegal champagne, convinced the good times are structural, eternal, deserved. Credit swells, debt swells, confidence swells bigger than everything. The party is spectacular. The music is deafening, the champagne never stops flowing. And nobody, not the bankers, not the politicians, not the shoeshine boy turned investor, bothers to check how close the dance floor is to the edge of the cliff. If this story of unchecked greed and blind optimism has you hooked, smash that subscribe button on Empire of Money like the video. Drop a comment telling me which part shocked you most, and share this with someone who still thinks endless growth is guaranteed. The fall is coming next, and it's going to hurt. The day the sky fell, Black Tuesday and the shattering crash. October 1929, the party is still raging. Champagne flows in hidden speakeasies. Ticker tapes chatter like machine guns. Everyone is rich, on paper, on margin, on pure electric delusion. Then, without warning, the music stops. It starts quietly in late September. A few stocks wobble, big players quietly sell. The Federal Reserve tightens credit just a hair, nothing dramatic, just enough to prick the balloon. By mid-October, the cracks are visible. Panic flickers. On October 24th, Black Thursday, the market drops hard. Phones scream at the New York Stock Exchange. Traders shout sell orders into a roaring void. Margin calls rain down like artillery. Big bankers, Morgan, Rockefeller, Lamont, rush into a private room and pledge millions to prop up prices. The headlines the next day scream, "Bankers save the market, confidence restored, party on." But it's a lie, a beautiful, desperate lie. 5 days later, October 29th, 1929, Black Tuesday, the lie explodes. 16 million shares trade in a single day, a record that will stand for decades. The ticker tape lags hours behind reality. Brokers shout numbers that no longer exist. Men in pinstripe suits watch fortunes evaporate in minutes. One trader faints dead away on the floor. Another reportedly clutches his chest, recovers, checks the board again, and collapses a second time. $14 billion vanish in one session. Adjusted for today, that's over $250 billion. Gone. Not lost. Erased. Homes, retirements, college funds, wedding dowries, all reduced to worthless paper. Outside 23 Wall Street, crowds gather in eerie silence. Some weep openly, others stare at the marble facade like it betrayed them personally. Police on horseback push back the stunned onlookers. Rumors swirl. 11 speculators have already jumped from skyscrapers. The truth is grim, but not quite that cinematic. Yet. Margin calls hit like tsunamis. You bought $100 of stock with 10 down? Broker wants the other 90. Now, no extensions, no mercy. People who yachted in the Hamptons on Saturday are bankrupt by Wednesday. Millionaires sell apples on street corners by Friday. Banks, those temples of marble and trust, begin to tremble. They lent wildly to brokers, to speculators, to anyone with a pulse and a dream. Now those loans are worthless. Depositors smell blood. They don't walk to their banks, they sprint. Bank runs erupt across the country. Lines stretch around blocks. Mothers clutch children. Fathers beg through iron bars. Tellers count out cash until the vaults echo empty, then lock the doors in terrified faces. One bank in Nashville posts a sign, "We will open tomorrow." It never does. The poison spreads overseas. American banks, desperate for liquidity, call in foreign loans. Europe, already patched together with American credit after the Great War, buckles. Germany defaults. Britain teeters. Global trade seizes up like an engine without oil. And still, the powerful pretend. President Hoover assures the nation the economy is fundamentally sound. Newspapers run headlines like "Market Stabilizing" next to photos of breadlines forming at dawn. Wall Street titans smile for cameras and promise the dip is temporary, a buying opportunity. But the floor has already fallen away. The Roaring Twenties didn't end with a whimper. They ended with a scream. 16 million shares worth of it, as an entire nation plunged into the abyss. The worst part? This was only the opening act. What comes next will test whether America can survive its own greed. If this plunge into chaos left your heart racing, hit subscribe on Empire of Money right now. Smash that like button. Drop a comment telling me the wildest stock story you've ever heard, and share this video with anyone who thinks markets only go up. The darkness is just beginning. A nation in chains. Breadlines, black blizzards, and the death of hope. By 1931, the jazz is dead. The speakeasies are boarded up. The factories that once roared day and night now stand silent, rust bleeding down their brick walls like slow tears. 1 in 4 American men who wants work cannot find it. 25% unemployment. A number so large it stops feeling real until you walk past the endless lines of hollow-eyed fathers in threadbare coats, waiting for a ladle of watery soup. Cities become museums of despair. Breadlines stretch for blocks at dawn, quiet except for the shuffle of shoes and the occasional cough that sounds like surrender. Mothers hide their children's faces so they don't see how little is in the bowl. Teachers watch pupils slump over desks, fainting from hunger. Newspapers stop printing suicide lists. There isn't room on the page. Men who once wore tailored suits now leap from ledges rather than face another day of nothing. Marriage dies. Births plummet. Who brings a child into a world with no food on the table and no promise of tomorrow? And then the sky itself turns against the heartland. The Great Plains, once endless golden wheat, betray the farmers who believed bigger was always better. Years of deep plowing stripped the prairie grass that held the soil together. When the rains stop and the winds arrive, the earth rises up in revenge. Black blizzards roll in like living nightmares. Walls of dust 2 miles high blot out the sun at noon. Day becomes night. Cattle suffocate standing up, lungs packed with dirt. Children die of dust pneumonia, coughing blood the color of the soil that used to feed them. Families seal windows with wet rags and still wake up choking, their bedsheets brown, their mouths full of grit. They called it the Dust Bowl. Oklahoma, Kansas, Texas, Colorado, New Mexico. Entire states turn to desert overnight. Over 3 million people flee. They load rusted Fords and jalopies with mattresses, pots, and whatever hope remains. Hand-painted signs on the bumpers read, "California or bust." Most arrive busted, turned away at state lines by armed deputies who don't want more Okies, more desperate mouths to feed. In Washington, President Hoover speaks of rugged individualism and voluntary cooperation. He refuses massive federal aid, warns that direct relief will destroy the American character. His name becomes a curse. Hoovervilles, sprawling shantytowns of cardboard and tin, where families burn cratewood for warmth. Hoover blankets, old newspapers tucked inside coats. Hoover flags, empty pockets pulled out in despair. Then comes the final insult, summer 1932. 20,000 World War I veterans, the Bonus Army, march on the Capitol. They were promised bonus pay in 1945. They need it now. They camp peacefully in mudflats across the Anacostia River, singing old army songs, waiting for Congress to act. Congress says no. Hoover says no. On July 28th, the U.S. Army, led by General Douglas MacArthur, with Major Dwight Eisenhower at his side, attacks its own citizens. Cavalry charges with sabers drawn. Infantry advances behind tanks. Tear gas drifts over tents where women and children huddle. The camp burns. Veterans who once fought for democracy run from American bayonets. The nation watches newsreels in stunned silence. Something fundamental breaks. Faith in institutions, faith in fairness, faith that the system will ever protect the people who built it. Crime surges. Bank robbers become folk heroes. John Dillinger, Pretty Boy Floyd, Bonnie and Clyde, modern Robin Hoods striking back at the banks that stole everything else. Socialist and communist meetings swell, not from ideology, but from raw hunger. America is not just broke, it is broken, spiritually, morally, physically. A country that promised endless prosperity now delivers endless suffering. And in the deepest darkness, people stop asking when it will end. They simply endure, because surrender feels worse than pain. But endurance has limits, and America is running out of time. If this raw portrait of a nation brought to its knees hit you hard, subscribe to Empire of Money right now, smash that like button, leave a comment telling me which moment felt the most unbearable, and share this video with someone who thinks hard times only happen to other people. Light is coming, but it will demand a fight. The Fireside Revolution. FDR, the New Deal, and America's defiant comeback, March 4th, 1933. Washington, D.C. is freezing, but the cold isn't just in the air. 4 years of despair have turned the capital into a city of ghosts. Banks are shuttered. Breadlines stretch farther than the eye can see. And on this day, a paralyzed man in a wheelchair, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, takes the oath of office while millions huddle around radios, wondering if this is the end or the beginning. His first words cut through the static like a blade. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. It isn't poetry, it's a battle cry. Roosevelt doesn't wait for spring. He charges. Day one. He declares a national bank holiday. Every bank in America closes its doors. No withdrawals, no runs, no more chaos. Then, in his first fireside chat, he speaks directly to 60 million terrified Americans, not from a distant podium, but like a neighbor leaning over the backyard fence. Your money is safer in a reopened bank than under the mattress. When the banks reopen a week later, people line up, not to withdraw, but to deposit. Trust, shattered for years, begins to knit itself back together. But jobs are the real emergency. Within weeks, the Civilian Conservation Corps, the CCC, is born. 3 million young men, skeletons in ragged clothes, are handed shovels, boots, and 3 meals a day. They plant 3 billion trees. They build parks, roads, dams. They send money home to mothers who haven't seen a paycheck in years. One kid from Brooklyn writes to his family, "I'm eating steak. Tell Ma to stop worrying." The Works Progress Administration follows, the WPA. 8.5 million people hired. Not charity, work. Bridges rise over rivers that never had them. Schools go up in towns that only had shacks. Murals explode across post office walls, bold, colorful reminders that America still has a soul. Writers document disappearing folk songs. Photographers like Dorothea Lange capture faces that will haunt the nation forever. The migrant mother, eyes burning with quiet defiance. In the Tennessee Valley Authority, TVA, turns a forgotten, flood-ravaged region into an electrified powerhouse. Dams tame wild rivers. Lights flicker on in farmhouses for the first time. A grandmother in Alabama sees her kitchen glow and whispers, "It's like the sun came indoors." Wall Street gets handcuffs. The Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, is created to police the casino that almost destroyed the country. The Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, FDIC, promises your bank account won't vanish overnight. Glass-Steagall separates boring banking from wild gambling. The rules aren't perfect, but they're a firewall. And then, the boldest move of all, Social Security. Old age will no longer mean starvation. Disability will no longer mean begging. It is not socialism, it is a promise. Work your whole life for this country, and the country won't abandon you when your body gives out. The arts explode too. Federal writers, musicians, actors, paid to create. Theaters reopen, swing music floods the airwaves again. In 1939, Americans escape into Technicolor dreams. The Wizard of Oz reminds a grey nation that somewhere, over the rainbow, color still exists. By 1939, GDP has climbed back. Unemployment, once 25%, is cut nearly in half. The Dust Bowl begins to heal under new soil conservation. People dare to marry again, to have children, to laugh without checking if anyone's watching. But recovery isn't triumph. It's survival, hard-won, blistered, imperfect. Black Americans and women often get the worst jobs and the least pay. Some programs exclude farm workers and domestics, the very people who need them most. The Supreme Court strikes down early New Deal laws, forcing Roosevelt into a bitter fight. And in 1937, a reckless cut in spending triggers a sharp recession, a reminder that the patient is still fragile. Yet something irreversible has changed. America discovers that government can be a force for rescue, not just referee. That a democracy can fight for its people without becoming a dictatorship. That hope isn't passive, it's built with concrete, steel, and legislation. The nation stands taller, scarred but unbroken. Factories begin to hum again. This time not just for radios and refrigerators, but for something bigger on the horizon. Because across the Atlantic, darkness is gathering. And America, tempered in its own fire, is about to be called to a greater one. If this story of defiance and rebirth ignited something in you, subscribe to Empire of Money right now. Smash that like button. Drop a comment telling me which New Deal program you think saved the most lives, and share this video with someone who believes government can't change anything. The final storm is coming, and it will change everything. Shadows over the horizon, the gathering storm, and America's reluctant awakening, 1939. Europe is already burning. Hitler's armies slice through Poland in weeks. France falls in 6. Britain stands alone, bombs raining on London while Churchill's voice crackles over the BBC. We shall fight on the beaches. Across the Atlantic, America is still licking its wounds. The New Deal saved the patient from death, but the fever hasn't fully broken. Unemployment lingers at 14%. Factories run at half speed. Young men who planted trees for the CCC now drift from town to town, looking for anything that pays. Most Americans want nothing to do with another European war. Memories of 1918, the mud, the gas, the coffins, are still raw. Isolationist slogans dominate America first. Charles Lindbergh, the golden boy of aviation, warns that joining the fight would finish what the Depression started. Congress passes neutrality acts designed to keep the country out. But Roosevelt sees the storm coming. He begins to move, carefully, quietly. In 1939, he persuades Congress to revise the neutrality acts, cash and carry for arms. Britain and France can buy weapons, but only if they pay cash and ship them themselves. American factories start to hum again, building guns and planes for foreign customers. Then, December 7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor. The Japanese surprise attack kills 2,403 Americans and cripples the Pacific Fleet in a single morning. Isolationism dies overnight. The next day, Roosevelt addresses Congress, a date which will live in infamy. America declares war on Japan. 3 days later, Hitler declares war on America. Suddenly, the Great Depression's long nightmare has an expiration date. The arsenal of democracy ignites. Unemployment? Gone within months. Factories that stood dark for a decade roar back to life, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Women flood assembly lines. Rosie the Riveter swinging hammers, welding hulls, riveting wings. 6 million women enter the workforce for the first time. Black Americans migrate north in a second Great Migration, finding defense jobs that pay real wages, though still segregated and unequal. Government spending explodes. The federal budget balloons from $9 billion in 1939 to $100 billion by 1945. Deficit spending on a scale the New Deal never dared. War bonds flood the market. Every paycheck, every movie theater, every schoolchild buys stamps and bonds to fund the fight. Shipyards in California and Virginia launch a Liberty ship every few days, mass-produced like Model Ts. Detroit stops making cars and starts making tanks, jeeps, bombers. Willow Run plant in Michigan churns out a B-24 bomber every hour. By war's end, America builds more aircraft than the rest of the world combined. The economic miracle is brutal and total. GDP doubles in 4 years. Industrial output surges 50%. The Depression's ghosts, Breadlines, Hoovervilles, dust pneumonia, vanish almost overnight. Families who hadn't seen steady income since 1929 now earn overtime pay, buy war bonds, and still have money left for refrigerators and radios. But the cost is measured in blood. Over 400,000 Americans never come home. Gold stars appear in windows across the country. Telegrams arrive at kitchen tables. The Secretary of War regrets to inform you. Yet in the crucible of total war, something new is forged. America emerges not just victorious, but transformed. The world's unrivaled economic superpower. The factories, the workforce, the technological leap, all of it becomes the foundation for the greatest boom the world has ever seen. The Great Depression didn't end with a New Deal program. It ended with total war. The most destructive, most expensive, most effective economic stimulus in human history. And when the smoke finally cleared in 1945, America stood at the center of a new global order, holding the keys to wealth and power like no empire before it. But empires built on war rarely stay peaceful forever. If this brutal pivot from despair to dominance left you speechless, subscribe to Empire of Money right now, smash that like button. Drop a comment telling me whether you think war was the only thing that could have ended the Depression, and share this video with someone who still believes peace alone drives prosperity. The Golden Age is next, and it will dazzle before it cracks. The Golden Empire rises, America's post-war boom, and the birth of endless prosperity, 1945. The guns fall silent. Europe and Asia lie in smoking ruins. London is scarred by blitz craters. Berlin is rubble. Hiroshima and Nagasaki are ash. 50 million dead worldwide, and in the middle of it all stands America. Factories intact, cities untouched, military mighty beyond imagination. The world needs everything: food, steel, machines, trucks. And only one nation can supply it all. America doesn't just win the war, it inherits the planet's economy. The numbers are staggering. By 1945, the United States produces half of the world's manufactured goods, half of its electricity, 2/3 of its gold reserves. The dollar becomes the global currency at Bretton Woods, every other money tied to it, and the dollar tied to gold. American loans rebuild Europe through the Marshall Plan, $13 billion, over $150 billion today, poured into factories, roads and ports. Not charity, smart business. Grateful customers buying American goods for decades. At home, the party begins again. Bigger, louder, richer than the 1920s ever dreamed. 16 million GIs come home with pockets full of back pay. and the Servicemen's Readjustment Act, the GI Bill, in their hands. Free college, low-interest home loans, business startup funds. Overnight, millions of working-class kids who once expected factory floors now walk ivy-covered campuses. Veterans buy houses in brand-new suburbs sprouting across the countryside like green miracles. Levittown, New York. Identical Cape Cod homes rolling off assembly lines faster than cars. 700 houses a week. 30,000 people move in almost overnight. A house for $10,000, $60 a month. White picket fences, 2-car garages. Lawns watered by spinning sprinklers under endless blue sky. The middle class explodes. By 1960, 60% of Americans own their homes, double the rate of 1940. Incomes double in a single generation. Factories run 3 shifts. Steel mills glow orange at night. Detroit churns out 15 million cars a year. Tail fins grow longer, chrome shines brighter, every family owns at least 1, then 2. Consumer culture goes supernova. Television invades living rooms. By 1960, 90% of homes have one. Advertisers sell the dream in 30-second bursts, shiny refrigerators that keep food forever. Washing machines that free housewives from drudgery, vacuum cleaners that suck up yesterday's dirt. Credit cards appear, Diners Club, then American Express. Buy now, pay later, again. But this time the wages keep rising so the debt feels harmless. Interstate highways slice across the continent. Eisenhower's greatest domestic legacy, 50,000 miles of concrete linking coasts, funded by the biggest public works project in history. Vacation becomes a national religion. Families pile into station wagons and drive to Disneyland, just opened in 1955. The happiest place on earth, built on the promise that happiness can be purchased, one ticket at a time. Unions are strong, pensions are real. A single factory paycheck supports a family of 4, a mortgage, a yearly vacation, and savings in the bank. The weekend is sacred. Barbecues smoke in backyards. Kids ride bikes without helmets because the future feels that safe. America isn't just rich, it's confident. Cocky, even. Life magazine declares the 20th century the American century. Economists proclaim the end of boom and bust cycles. Keynesian wizards in Washington fine-tune the economy like a perfect engine. A little spending here, a tax cut there, permanent prosperity engineered at last. But beneath the chrome and pastel perfection, cracks are already forming. Suburbs are almost entirely white. Redlining and restrictive covenants keep black families locked in decaying cities. Women who riveted wings during the war are pushed back to kitchens and told their highest calling is perfect Jell-O molds. The Cold War hums in the background, bomb shelters in backyards, duck and cover drills in schools. Conformity is enforced with a smile and a side of suspicion. And debt, personal, corporate, government, begins its quiet climb again. The Golden Empire looks unbreakable, feels eternal. Everyone believes this time is different. But empires of money never stay golden forever. If this dazzling portrait of America, at its absolute peak, left you dreaming of tail fins and suburban sunsets, subscribe to Empire of Money right now. Smash that like button. Drop a comment telling me which piece of that post-war dream you'd want to live in, and share this video with someone who thinks prosperity is permanent. The shine is about to fade, and the cracks are spreading fast. The hangover begins. Stagflation, gas lines, and the death of endless growth, 1969. The summer of love is already a faded postcard. Woodstock's mud and music feel like the last gasp of something innocent. America is still the world's undisputed economic colossus. Factories humming, suburbs sprawling, shopping malls multiplying like concrete miracles. But beneath the surface, the bills are coming due. Vietnam is bleeding the treasury dry. Lyndon Johnson's guns and butter promise fight a war in Asia while funding the Great Society at home sounded noble in 1965. By the end of the decade, it's a fiscal fantasy. Hundreds of billions pour into jungles and bombers, while Medicare, Medicaid, and the war on poverty launch at home. Union workers strike for double-digit raises and get them. Grocery bills double in a decade. A gallon of gas, still under 40 cents, starts creeping up. Then, August 15th, 1971. Nixon appears on television, calm and scripted. He announces the United States will no longer convert dollars to gold at $35 an ounce. Fights break out. Stations close entirely on Sundays. The country that won World War II on Detroit steel and Texas oil suddenly can fill its tanks. Energy prices ripple through everything. Heating bills soar. Factories cut shifts. Plastic, fertilizer, freight. Everything made or moved with oil becomes brutally expensive. Inflation hits double digits, 11%, 12, 14. A new word enters the lexicon: stagflation. High inflation plus economic stagnation plus rising unemployment, a combination Keynesian textbooks swore was impossible. By 1974, the stock market has lost nearly half its value from the 1973 peak. Unemployment climbs past 9%. Factories lay off workers who once thought their jobs were lifetime guarantees. The Rust Belt begins to rust in real time. Youngstown, Ohio, Gary, Indiana, Detroit, steel mills and auto plants shutter. Families who bought ranch houses on single incomes now watch both parents scramble for part-time work. Jimmy Carter takes office in 1977, promising honesty and competence. Instead, he gets the malaise era. Double-digit inflation, double-digit interest rates, double-digit unemployment in some states. In 1979, revolution in Iran triggers a second oil shock. Gas lines return, longer and angrier. Inflation peaks near 15%. The prime rate hits 21%. A mortgage becomes a life sentence. Carter goes on television in a cardigan and asks Americans to turn down their thermostats. He speaks of a crisis of confidence. The speech is honest. The public hears surrender. His approval rating collapses. Confidence, the secret fuel of the post-war boom, evaporates. Suburbs that once felt like the future now feel like traps. Savings accounts lose value every month. Gold bugs and doomsday preppers suddenly sound reasonable. Disco still thumps in clubs, but the vibe is desperate. Saturday Night Fever is less celebration, more escape. The American dream, marketed for 30 years as a straight line upward, house, car, college, retirement, starts to feel like a con. And in the shadows, new ideologies sharpen their knives. The greed decade ignites. Reaganomics, Wall Street Wolves, and Unchained Capitalism 1980. The hostages are still in Iran. Gas lines linger in memory. Inflation sits at 13%. Interest rates touch 20%. A house mortgage feels like signing your life away. Jimmy Carter's cardigan speech hangs in the air like a confession of defeat. And America, exhausted by a decade of humiliation, votes for a new story. Ronald Reagan rides in on a white horse named Morning in America. His promise is simple. Government is the problem, not the solution. Cut taxes, slash regulations. Free the animal spirits of capitalism. Trust the market, trust the rich, because their wealth will trickle down to everyone else. In 1981, Congress passes the largest tax cut in history. Top marginal rates drop from 70% to 50%, then to 28% by 1986. Corporations cheer. The Laffer curve, draw it on a napkin and suddenly deficits don't matter, becomes gospel. Paul Volcker, the chain-smoking Fed chairman, finishes the dirty work. He keeps interest rates sky high until inflation is strangled dead. The price? A brutal double-dip recession in 1981-82. Unemployment peaks above 10%. Factories close for good. Farmers lose land their grandfathers cleared. But by 1983, the pain breaks. Inflation falls to 3%. Interest rates tumble. The economy roars back louder than anyone expected. Wall Street becomes the new cathedral. Deregulation unleashes the wolves. Investment banks invent new toys. Junk bonds, leveraged buyouts, hostile takeovers. Michael Milken, the junk bond king at Drexel Burnham, finances corporate raiders with high-yield debt once considered trash. Billionaires are minted overnight. Carl Icahn, T. Boone Pickens, Ronald Perelman, they swoop in, load companies with debt, strip assets, fire workers, pocket billions. Efficiency, they call it. Greed, Gordon Gekko calls it. And in 1987, Hollywood makes him a hero. The Dow Jones triples between 1982 and 1987. Yuppies, young urban professionals, flood Manhattan in red suspenders and Porsche 911s. Cocaine flows. Champagne flows faster. Art auctions shatter records. Trump Tower rises like a golden middle finger to restraint. The message is clear. Winning isn't everything. It's the only thing. Consumer debt explodes again. Credit cards multiply. Home equity loans let families treat their houses like ATMs. The savings rate collapses. Why save when assets only go up? The trade deficit balloons. America buys Japanese VCRs, German cars, Taiwanese toys, all on borrowed money. The dollar is strong, so imports are cheap. Factories keep closing. The Rust Belt becomes a museum. Then October 19th, 1987, Black Monday. The market plunges 23% in a single day. The largest one-day percentage drop in history. $500 billion vanish before lunch. Computers amplify the panic with program trading. Phones melt at brokerage houses. For a terrifying moment, it feels like 1929, all over again. But this time the Fed, under new chairman Alan Greenspan, floods the system with liquidity. We stand ready to provide whatever is needed. The crash becomes a blip. By 1989, the market is higher than ever. The lesson everyone learns: the Fed has your back. Risk is dead. Moral hazard is born. National debt triples under Reagan, from $900 billion to $3 trillion. Deficits no longer scare anyone. The Cold War is won on credit cards. The Berlin Wall falls in 1989, and America declares itself the sole superpower. Economically, militarily, culturally. The rich get spectacularly richer. The top 1% captures most of the gains. CEOs who once earned 40 times the average worker now earn hundreds of times more. The middle class stagnates, but shopping malls and 401ks keep them distracted. The American dream is rebranded. Anyone can be rich if they just believe hard enough. But beneath the neon and excess, new fault lines spread. Deregulated savings and loan associations gamble with federally insured deposits. Real estate bubbles inflate in Texas and California. Fraud festers. The bill is coming, hundreds of billions to clean up the mess. And in the shadows, a new revolution is already brewing. Personal computers, modems, fiber optic cables. A digital empire waiting to eclipse everything that came before. The 1980s didn't just recover America. They rewrote the rules of money itself. Debt is good, regulation is bad, greed is holy, and the party can last forever if the central bank is willing to keep pouring. But forever has never been kind to empires built on borrowed time. If this wild ride through the greed decade left you hungry for more, subscribe to Empire of Money right now. Smash that like button, drop a comment telling me which 1980s excess shocked you most, and share this video with someone who still believes trickle-down actually works. The next boom will be bigger, faster, and digital, and the crash will shake the world. The virtual gold rush, dot-com mania, irrational exuberance, and the millennium bust. 1991, the Soviet Union collapses. The Cold War ends not with a bang, but with a surrender. America stands alone as the hyperpower, militarily, culturally, economically supreme. Budget deficits shrink, peace dividends flow. Bill Clinton rides into office promising to grow the economy, stupid. And for 8 years, the numbers obey. Growth without inflation. Unemployment falls below 4%, the lowest in decades. The internet, once a nerdy defense project, escapes the lab and becomes the new frontier. Netscape goes public in 1995, and the stock jumps from $28 to $75 in a single day. Message boards explode. This changes everything. Venture capitalists throw money at anyone with a domain name and a dream. Pets.com, Webvan, eToys, companies with no profits, no realistic path to profits, suddenly valued in billions. The Nasdaq, once a sleepy tech index, becomes a rocket ship. From 1995 to March 2000, it rises fivefold. Day traders quit their jobs to sit in pajamas and watch CNBC. College kids open e-trade accounts with birthday money. Analysts invent new metrics: eyeballs, page views, mindshare, price to earnings, old economy thinking. Burn rate becomes a badge of honor. The faster you lose money, the more visionary you seem. Amazon loses money every quarter, yet becomes worth more than Sears, Walmart, and Target combined. Alan Greenspan, the maestro, warns in 1996 of irrational exuberance. The market shrugs, surges higher. The Fed keeps interest rates low, money is cheap, risk feels extinct. Magazines crown 20-something CEOs on covers, the new titans. Office space in San Francisco rents for Manhattan prices. Super Bowl ads cost $2 million for 30 seconds, and every spot is bought by a .com promising to revolutionize socks, dog food, or groceries delivered to your door. The wealth effect is intoxicating. Paper millionaires buy Teslas that don't exist yet. McMansions in Silicon Valley, private jets for weekend jaunts. San Francisco bars run out of champagne. The phrase, "this time is different," becomes holy scripture. Economists declare the business cycle dead. Productivity miracles from computers and networks will deliver permanent growth. Then, March 10th, 2000. The bubble peaks. It doesn't pop with a bang. It deflates slowly, cruelly. Baron ES publishes a weekend article. Burning up, many internet companies will run out of cash in 12 months. The truth lands like ice water. Investors blink. Venture funding dries up overnight. Companies that spent $200 million on branding have $20 million left and no customers. Layoffs begin quietly, then avalanche. By April, the Nasdaq is down 30%. By October, it's halved. By 2002, it will lose 78% of its value. $5 trillion erased. More wealth destroyed than in 1929, adjusted for inflation. Pets, Comfolds. Webvan goes bankrupt owing hundreds of millions. Boo, Calm burns through 135 million in 18 months and vanishes. Cisco, the backbone of the internet, drops from $80 to 14 clones. WorldCom, once a telecom giant, reveals the largest accounting fraud in history, $11 billion fabricated. The broader economy tips into recession in 2001. Then September 11th, planes hit towers. Markets close for a week. When they reopen, the Dow plunges. Fear replaces greed. Layoffs sweep Silicon Valley. Office parks empty. Free lattes and foosball tables become relics. The heroes of 1999 are vilified as frauds or fools. To stop the bleeding, the Fed slashes rates to 1%, the lowest in 45 years. Cheap money floods the system again. Investors, burned by stocks, hunt for the next sure thing. They find it in bricks and mortar. Home prices, already rising, go parabolic. Subprime lending explodes. No income, no job, no problem, ninja loans. Wall Street bundles mortgages into securities, rates them AAA, sells them worldwide. Leverage returns, bigger than ever. Housing becomes the new religion. Prices only go up, right? The virtual gold rush is over. 5 trillion gone, dreams deleted. But the lesson isn't learned, it's ignored. The animal spirits simply migrate from pixels to property, from .coms to McMansions, from Nasdaq to Fannie and Freddie. And the next bubble begins inflating, bigger, riskier, and backed by something everyone believes is safe, the American home. If this insane ride through the .com delusion left you stunned, subscribe to Empire of Money right now, smash that like button. Drop a comment telling me which ridiculous .com company you remember best, and share this video with someone who still thinks this time is different. The biggest crash in history is next, and it will hit where people live. When houses became bombs, the subprime inferno, and the crash of 2008. 2002. The .com wreckage is still smoking, $5 trillion gone. Silicon Valley offices stand empty, foosball tables gathering dust. But the Fed has slashed rates to 1%. Money is cheaper than it has been since the 1950s. Investors, singed by tech stocks, look for the next safe bet. They find it in the one asset every American believes in, the house. Home prices have been rising steadily since the 1990s, but now they go vertical. Las Vegas, Phoenix, Miami, Southern California, prices double in 5 years. Flippers buy condos on Monday, sell them on Friday for 50 grand profit. Television shows glorify the hustle, flip this house, property ladder, $1 million listing. HGTV runs 24 hours a day. The message is relentless. Real estate never goes down. It's the surest path to wealth. Wall Street invents the perfect machine to feed the frenzy. Banks loosen standards until they barely exist. No income, no job, no assets, no problem. Ninja loans flood the market. Stated income liar loans let borrowers write whatever number feels good. Adjustable rate mortgages start sweet, 2% teaser rates, then reset like time bombs. Lenders don't care. They package the mortgages into securities, slice them into tranches, and sell them worldwide. Rating agencies, paid by the banks, stamp AAA on the riskiest slices. Investors in Norway, Japan, Germany buy American mortgage bonds like their treasury bills. The machine hums. Trillions flow in. Construction booms. Subdivisions swallow desert and farmland. Home equity becomes an ATM. Borrow against the rising value. Buy boats, vacations, bigger houses. Household debt doubles in a decade. The savings rate goes negative. Americans spend more than they earn for the first time since the Great Depression. Regulators look away. Alan Greenspan praises the innovation of derivatives. Ben Bernanke assures Congress that housing prices will not fall nationwide. There's no precedent. The phrase, "this time is different," returns like a ghost. Then the music slows. By 2006, the teaser rates reset. Payments double, triple. The securities built on those mortgages turn toxic. No one knows which bonds are poison. Trust evaporates overnight. Banks stop lending to each other. The shadow banking system, repo markets, money market funds, freezes solid. September 2008, the dominoes fall fast. Bear Stearns collapses in March, rescued by JP Morgan with Fed help. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, holding half the nation's mortgages, are seized by the government. Then Lehman Brothers, the fourth largest investment bank, files for bankruptcy on September 15th, the largest in American history. 158 years of history erased in hours. Panic. Stock markets plunge. Credit markets seize. AIG, insured against everything, needs $85 billion overnight or the entire system implodes. Money market funds break the buck. A sacred line crossed. Ordinary Americans wake up to find their supposedly safe savings at risk. The Dow drops 777 points in a single day, the largest point drop ever at the time. Trillions vanish. Retirement accounts shrink 30, 40, 50%. Unemployment surges from 5% to 10. 9 million jobs lost. 8 million homes foreclosed. Families pack U-Hauls in the dark, leaving keys on kitchen counters. The Great Recession arrives, the worst since the 1930s. Governments and central banks respond with everything they have. The Fed cuts rates to zero, launches quantitative easing, buying bonds with freshly printed money. Congress passes TARP, $700 billion to bail out banks. Too big to fail becomes official policy. Bonuses continue. No major CEO goes to jail. By 2009, the bleeding stops. Stocks bottom in March and begin a historic bull run fueled by zero rates and QE. But the recovery feels hollow. Wages stagnate. The gains flow almost entirely to the top 1%. Home ownership rates fall to 50-year lows. Young adults move back with parents. Student debt explodes as college becomes the new safe investment. The scars remain visible. Trust in institutions hits all-time lows. Occupy Wall Street camps in parks, chanting, "We are the 99%." Populism rises on left and right. Bitcoin is born in 2009, a middle finger to central banks written in code. And the cycle begins again. Rates stay at zero for 7 years. Money floods into stocks, bonds, real estate, tech, crypto. Asset prices soar. Inequality widens. Warnings of bubbles are dismissed. Again. Because every empire of money convinces itself it has finally solved the riddle of permanent prosperity, until it hasn't. This has been the story of America's wildest booms and most brutal busts. From jazz and margin loans to subprime mortgages and quantitative easing. Empires of wealth rise on confidence, leverage, and the belief that this time is different. They fall when reality returns. Thank you for joining Empire of Money on this 10-episode ride through the fire. If this series opened your eyes to how fragile wealth really is, subscribe right now so you never miss what comes next. Smash that like button. Drop a comment telling me which crash, 1929, 2000, or 2008, scared you the most, and share this playlist with someone who still thinks the good times will last forever. The music is playing again. The question is, how close are we to the edge?